Have you ever discovered something about your parents, something so unexpected, so heartbreaking, that it changed the way you saw your entire childhood? He never imagined his mother carried secrets. She laughed easily, worked hard, and always said she was fine, even on days when her hands trembled from exhaustion. Whenever he asked if something was wrong, she would brush his hair gently and whisper, "Just focus on growing up strong, sweetheart." But the truth was never spoken. She hid it carefully, behind tired smiles, behind long work shifts, behind stories she never allowed herself to finish. And then, after she passed away, he found it, a small envelope at the bottom of an old drawer, wrinkled, soft at the edges, sealed shut for more than 30 years. It had his name on it, and inside was the truth she never wanted him to see. He grew up believing his mother was simply a hard-working woman, who did everything she could to keep their small family together. She worked long hours at a local diner, a place that smelled like fresh coffee and buttered toast, where tired truck drivers passed through, and old men came for the same breakfast special every morning. As a child, he never wondered why she always came home so exhausted. He never questioned why her shoes were worn down, or why her knuckles were always red and cracked, or why she stood for hours in silence, staring at the kitchen counter, as if trying to remember something she forgot to do. Children don't know what struggle looks like. Not really, they just assume the world is shaped the same way for everyone. He used to sit on the couch waiting for her return, falling asleep with the TV still on, because she always worked the closing shift. When she finally walked through the door, she would kiss his forehead, and whisper a soft "Sorry I'm late," even though he never blamed her. Still, there were moments that stuck with him, moments he didn't understand until years later, like the time she told the landlord she would catch up next month, or when she skipped dinner, saying she had eaten at work, or when she stitched the same coat again and again, instead of buying a new one. Back then, he saw these things, but didn't know what they meant. He thought everything was normal. Now, standing in her old bedroom after her funeral, he realized how little he had understood. Inside the drawer, beneath old scarves and faded receipts, he felt something stiff and rectangular. He pulled it out gently, a thick envelope, overstuffed, bulging slightly, his name written across the front, in his mother's familiar handwriting, the same looping cursive she used on every birthday card, and every permission slip for school. He froze. Why would she keep an envelope for him, hidden like this? He sat down on the floor, the wooden boards creaking beneath him. He held the envelope for a long moment, unable to bring himself to open it. It felt strange, as if opening it would permanently break the last piece of her he had left. But eventually, with a deep breath, he slid his finger beneath the flap. Dozens of small papers spilled out. Not letters, not photographs, not documents, but something else, something that made his heart stop. Inside the envelope were hundreds of small diner tip slips, crinkled, faded, yellowed at the edges. Some were torn, some still slightly sticky from old syrup or coffee, and on each one was the same handwritten number, a dollar amount, her tips, her diner tips, all saved, all kept, all stored away, for him. At first, he didn't understand. Why would she save these? Why keep every single tip slip? For more than 3 decades? He picked up a handful and spread them across the floor. Some had little notes on the back. Rough night, sorry for the mess, thank you for listening, your kindness means more than you know. Others had tiny hearts scribbled in the corner, as if the customers had wanted to leave a bit of warmth behind. For the woman who always smiled, even when her eyes looked tired. He ran his fingers over the ink, the numbers, the creases worn smooth by her hands. Why would she keep these? Suddenly, he remembered something, a memory from when he was 8, a night when he had woken up and found her sitting at the kitchen table, counting small bills and coins. He remembered asking, "Mom, is that for my birthday?" She had smiled softly, shaking her head. "No, sweetheart, this is for something important." He hadn't understood then. He still didn't understand fully now. He gathered the tip slips back into a pile, and noticed something else at the bottom of the envelope, a folded sheet of paper, different from the rest. He picked it up, unfolded it carefully, as if it might fall apart in his hands. It was a hospital bill. Date, 29 years ago. His birth year. His eyes scanned the page rapidly. Emergency room fees, specialist consultations, medication charges, observation costs. It was thousands of dollars. Money his mother never had. The truth hit him slowly, painfully, like a cold wave rising up his spine. These weren't just her tips, they were his mother's way of surviving. of paying for medical treatment he never knew he needed. He held the bill closer, searching for details. There, a diagnosis he didn't recognize, a condition he never remembered suffering from. Notes scribbled by a doctor, about complications, monitoring, critical days. He didn't remember any of it, but she did. She remembered everything. The fear, the worry, the cost, the nights she sat beside his hospital bed, begging him to keep breathing, and the tips, these crumpled slips of gratitude, from strangers, had been her lifeline. Her job at the diner had not been a simple job, it had been survival. Every shift, every late night, every aching step, she kept every tip blank, because she couldn't afford to forget where each dollar went, because every dollar was another day her son stayed alive. Sudden, suffocating guilt pressed against his chest. How many times had he complained that she was always working? How many times had he grumbled that she never came to his school events? How many times had he misunderstood her exhaustion as distance instead of devotion? He tried to swallow the tightness in his throat, but the truth only grew heavier. She had carried all of this alone. All the worry, all the fear, all the debt, all the exhaustion. She had carried it quietly, so he wouldn't have to. He lifted the envelope again, and noticed yet another folded paper, smaller, thinner, almost hidden between the slips. His hands shook as he unfolded it slowly. It was a letter. His mother's handwriting covered the page, in soft blue ink. It began simply, "My sweet boy, if you are reading this, then I am finally resting." He closed his eyes, taking a long, unsteady breath. His hands trembled as he continued reading. "There are things I never told you, not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't want you to worry." A tear slipped down his cheek. "When you were born, you were very sick. For years, I was afraid I might lose you. The hospital visits, the medicine, the specialists, I paid for them with what little I had." He pressed a hand against his mouth, trying to steady his breath. "Every night after work, I counted my tips. Some nights I earned only a few dollars. Other nights, a stranger's kindness helped me believe we would be okay." He looked around the room, the faded wallpaper, her neatly folded scarves, her old perfume bottle, and for the first time, he saw everything differently. She wasn't just a mother who worked hard. She was a woman who fought for him with every piece of strength she had, and she never told him. Not once, not even when he was grown, and stable, and safe, because she didn't want to burden him with her past. The letter continued, "I kept the tip slips, because they reminded me that people can be kind, and because every dollar brought you one day closer to the life you deserved." He placed the letter over his heart, feeling the words echo inside him. The envelope wasn't just a collection of papers, it was the story of how he survived, the story of how she lived, the story of everything she endured. In silence, he sat there on the floor, surrounded by the pieces of her quiet struggle. Tip slips, hospital bills, scribbled notes, and the letter she had saved, for the day she could no longer hold him. He had always wondered why she never remarried, why she never took time off, why she never bought anything nice for herself, why she always wore the same shoes, until the soles nearly fell off. And now he knew, every spare dollar had gone to him, every long shift had been for him, every sacrifice was made in silence, so he could live the life she dreamed of for him. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, but the tears kept falling. He whispered to the empty room, "Mom, I didn't know. I should have seen it. I should have asked. I should have said, thank you. I should have." But the words broke in his throat. He folded the letter back into the envelope, and held it against his chest, as if holding it tightly could somehow bring her back. That's when he noticed something else inside the drawer, a second envelope, thin, plain, with a small piece of tape sealing it. No name on the front, just a single word scribbled in faded ink. "College." His breath caught, hands trembling. He opened it carefully. Inside were crisp bills, dozens of them, saved over years, maybe decades. He counted roughly, hundreds of dollars, maybe 1,000. It wasn't a fortune, but it was everything to her, everything she could spare, every coin she saved from tips, every dollar she didn't spend on herself. She had saved it, for him, for a future she wasn't sure she would live to see. He remembered the conversations they had when he was a teenager, how she encouraged him to study hard, to dream big, to believe he could be more than their circumstances. He realized now that she had been preparing for his future, long before he understood what a future even was. He opened her closet, and found more evidence of the life she quietly endured. A uniform folded neatly, still smelling faintly of coffee and fried eggs, a pair of worn shoes, with soles patched together, a jar of loose change, labeled rainy days, though he suspected, every day had felt like one. Suddenly, a memory surfaced. He was 12, it was raining hard, and he had asked her if they could go somewhere fun that weekend. She had smiled sadly and said, "Maybe next week, sweetheart, this week is a little tight." He remembered being disappointed, he remembered pouting in his room, and thinking she didn't care. But now, he felt the guilt wash over him. In heavy, suffocating waves, she had always cared, more than he could ever understand. The cost of his childhood had been her entire adulthood. He walked through the house slowly, touching the things she left behind, items worn from use, objects that seemed small and trivial, yet held entire stories within them. Her sewing kit with threads nearly finished, her coffee mug with a tiny crack on the handle, her favorite cardigan, mended countless times at the elbows, the old photograph of him she kept beside her bed. All these years, he whispered through the quiet, "Why didn't you tell me, Mom? I would have helped, I would have tried harder, I would have understood." But even as he said the words, he knew the answer. She didn't want him to grow up feeling like a burden. She wanted him to run, and laugh, and dream freely, without the weight she carried. Her love was the kind that stayed quiet, the kind that didn't show itself with expensive gifts or loud declarations. It was the kind of love that worked double shifts, the kind that hid pain behind soft smiles, the kind that saved tip slips and loose coins for years on end. A love that sacrificed silently, a love that he never fully saw. Until now, he sank onto her bed, the old mattress dipping softly under his weight. The room felt warm and unbearably empty at the same time. He held the envelope one more time, running his thumb gently over the familiar curves of her handwriting, and then he saw something else, a final line at the bottom of the letter that he hadn't noticed before, maybe because his tears had blurred everything. "I never wanted you to feel guilty. I wanted you to feel loved." He closed his eyes, letting the words settle deep in his chest, where they would stay forever. He whispered, voice shaking, "I feel it now, Mom. I feel it, and I love you too." The house remained silent, but somehow, in that silence, he finally heard her. He stayed in her room for a long time, surrounded by the pieces of a life he had never truly understood. The house, once quiet in a familiar way, now felt quiet in a way that hurt. Eventually, he gathered the envelopes, the tip slips, and the letter, placing them gently back inside the drawer, not to hide them, but to keep them safe. He stood by her dresser, tracing the worn edges of the wood, where her hands had brushed countless times. He imagined her standing there in the mornings, tying her apron, forcing a smile before heading out to work, even when she was exhausted. He walked into the kitchen next. The tiny table where she used to drink her coffee looked exactly the same, her chair slightly pushed back, as if she had just gotten up. He pulled the chair out, and sat where she once sat, letting the weight of everything she had carried settle in the air around him. How many mornings had she sat here, counting her tips from the night before? How many nights had she come home, after a long shift, too tired to talk, too tired to even take off her shoes right away? He rested his elbows on the table, leaning forward. "I didn't know, Mom," he whispered. I should have paid more attention. I'm sorry." The apology hung in the air, too late to reach her ears, but not too late to reach the part of him that needed to say it. He took a slow breath. The grief in his chest was still heavy, but now it had shape. It had meaning. It wasn't just sadness. It was understanding. It was gratitude. It was love finally recognized. He walked to her bedroom one last time, and picked up the envelope with his name. He held it tightly in his hands. This small, simple object, that carried 3 decades of her sacrifice. Then, almost instinctively, he pressed it against his heart, as if trying to feel her through it. He closed his eyes, and let the memories wash over him. Her laughter, her worn hands, her tired smile, the nights she stayed up with him when he was sick, the mornings she rushed to work before sunrise. She had never told him, she had never complained, she had never expected anything back, because that's the kind of love she had, a love that didn't need recognition, a love that lived in the shadows, so he could stand in the light, a love that sacrificed quietly, but completely. He looked around the room one last time, feeling something shift inside him, a deep, unspoken promise forming. "I'll make you proud, Mom," he whispered. "I'll live in a way that honors everything you gave up." As he walked toward the front door, the evening sunlight poured into the house, casting soft golden light across the floor, the kind of warm glow his mother always loved. For the first time, he didn't feel alone in the house. He felt her there, in the floorboards she scrubbed, in the curtains she sewed, in the faint scent of coffee that still lingered, in the quiet strength that filled every corner, and most of all, he felt her in the envelope in his hand, the physical reminder of a lifetime of love he hadn't seen until now. He stepped outside, closed the door gently behind him, and whispered into the fading evening air, "Thank you, Mom, for everything." And with that, he walked forward, carrying her love with him, not as a burden, but as a gift he would never let go of again. If you want to support this story, please consider subscribing and liking the channel. This is Life Studio.